Welcome to the Real Business Lifetime Lessons podcast, where Carolina business leaders get real about growth, grit, and leadership. I'm Josh Busbey, your All American agent with Lifetime Insurance Agency, and this is White Coat Conversations, in depth discussions with healthcare and wellness leaders who are making an impact across the Carolinas. My guest today is Sarah Madras, a licensed clinical social worker turned mindset transformation expert and certified Dare to Lead facilitator. Known by many as the Brene Brown of the Triangle, Sarah has spent nearly 2 decades helping people build brave leadership, courageous cultures, and trustworthy, loyal teams. She's the founder of Sarah Madras Coaching, co-host of Girls Who Do Stuff podcast, and passionate advocate for transforming toxic environments into thriving workplaces. Sarah, thank you. Thank you so much for being on today's episode with me.
Thank you, Josh. I feel like I got a promotion just by being on the podcast because I'm like, only doctorates get their white coat. And I just have my master's, but you just like upgraded me to a doctorate with a white coat.
Hey, honorary doctorate white coat for the day. All right, let's dive into this. So, Sarah, you've been called the Brene Brown of the Triangle. How did the nickname come about, and what does it mean to you?
So it's actually a really funny story. Here in Raleigh, North Carolina, one of our main radio stations is Mix 101.5. And my boys and I listen every morning on the way to carpool. And their morning show of Kyle, Brian, and Sarah, we listen to them all the time. And they do this trivia. It's Sarah's College of Hollywood Knowledge. And my kids were always like, call in, call in, call in. And I suck trivia games. Like I crack under the pressure.
Me too.
I cannot handle it. And so fine, I'll do it. You know, here I talk about courage. Like I actually need to be courageous and do things outside of my comfort zone. So I call in, I lose drastically. It is awful, and I am cracking under the pressure, I thought, but it was hilarious. I only got 2 out of the 5, and it got us talking with the host of the show, and they were like, hey, we'd love to learn more about you, da-da-da-da. So then they reached out and did a boss lady interview with me of one of their boss lady segments, and they actually dubbed me the Brene Brown of the Triangle, and I was like, I'll take it. I will take it. So I didn't win the trivia, but I won a title.
Oh, man, that's incredible. I can definitely relate because I am the last person you want on your trivia team. I'm there to drink beer. I'm there to have a good time. I'm there to answer. I'm good with this sports topics and everything like that, but everything else, just leave me out of it. I'm there to cheerlead and drink and have fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, man, that's too funny. You started your first business after experiencing toxic work environments. What was the turning point that made you say, I need to build my own island?
So I was fresh out of college, and it was within my first 2 years I tried 4 different organizations, and each time it just got worse and worse and worse. And so honestly, lots of entrepreneurial journeys, we build what we need for ourselves. We're like, I need this for myself. It's not out there, so then I have to create it. And so when I couldn't find it, I've been financially self-sufficient since 17, so I didn't have a safety net. I had to build my own safety net. And so I just decided, hey, I need stability. I need professionalism. I need to work in a place that is ethical and aligns with integrity. And I can't be a part of something that I don't believe in, and I can't be a part of something that is doing harm to clients and a therapist. And so I just created what I needed at the time.
Yeah, I can't imagine being because everybody's in toxic and work environments. And of course you're grateful for the tools and the trades that you learn and everything like that. But sometimes you just got to do your own thing. And I know it's not for everybody, but not only did you do it, but you're thriving.
Yeah. Well, and I thought to myself too, I can't be the only one experiencing this or thinking this. So it's the whole, like, if you build it, they will come. of like,
Yeah.
if I create the island, the other therapists who are out there seeing, because at that time in North Carolina, there was so much Medicaid fraud happening, so much unethical stuff happening. And I was
Right.
like, if I build it over here, it's going to attract aligned therapists who also don't want to be a part of that. And we'll be
Yeah.
able to create this whole niche culture over here where it is safe for clients, for therapists, everybody, and we can be the example and it'll
Yeah.
draw other people in.
Yeah. Everybody wins and everybody grows.
Yep.
You've gone from therapist to mindset transformation expert and leadership coach. What do you see as the common thread that runs through all those roles?
For me, it's the people. And so that's why my whole love for reality TV shows, and that's my hobby. And I love relationships. I was a couples therapist for many, many years before I transitioned into coaching. And so it's all about relationships, relationship dynamics, and what makes people tick, why they do the things they do. I've always been so curious. I want to understand someone. And I think it ties back to my core value of connection. I believe we are all interconnected in some way as human beings, and I
Mhm.
thrive off of authentic, genuine, real, deep connection. Like, I can't
Yeah.
handle surface level, small talk, like shit.
That's all right.
That's why networking events like give me hives. Yep, yep. So yeah, it was all about connection. And even with the rise of AI and all and systems, like we need systems, we need processes, we need all of that. But you're never going to escape people. If
No.
you want relationships in the workplace, at home. And so it's really that common denominator for me of human interaction and the relationships between people.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that you absolutely love enjoying learning about just learning about people,
Yes.
someone new every day
Yep.
and the ins and outs, the who's, the whys, all that of why they
Yes.
do what they do.
Yes, I'm very much a why person.
Hmm.
Help me understand why. Where does that come from? I
Yeah.
want to see in my trainings, I'm telling people the more information you have, it's like those little pictorial paintings where when
Yeah.
you're really close up to it, they just look like a bunch of dots. But then when you back up, all of those dots, oh my gosh, that's a whole person's face. But if you only
Hmm.
have half the dots, you can't see any of it. And so I put all the dots in there. I want to see it. I want to see the
Yeah.
beauty of you.
You want to understand all of it. That's an incredible way to put it, the way you just did with the dots. I didn't even
Mhm.
think about that. In your coaching work, you emphasize building courageous cultures. What does a courageous culture look like in practice?
Okay. So essentially, it's people being willing to show up as their whole full selves. So rather than having to hide parts of themselves, or this is my work self, or this is my home self, no, I get to show up as my whole, real, authentic self,
Hmm.
regardless of the environment. So that's the
Yeah.
first one. And then from that, as my whole self, we're going to be building trust. We're going to be building trust through being vulnerable. And then we're going to have the hard conversations. So the biggest indicator of toxic cultures and the biggest like barrier to courageous cultures, 70% of hard conversations do not occur.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking about people. We're not talking to people.
No, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. Just kind of going back to what you said earlier, and this all relates to what I do in my job as an insurance agent is not only identifying the problem and listening, but identifying the how, like,
Mhm.
and how this occurred, how to fix it. And, yes, I'm in sales, but that's going to turn a client off. If you come across as salesy, the client is not going to do business with you.
Right.
I am a human at the end of the day, and I like to treat my clients as humans. So it's kind of like you get the naked truth, you get the pure, authentic version of me.
Yep.
And I'm always honest with clients. I love building the relationship with clients. And that has to do with you being your all natural self. Being honest, I always give my clients the blunt, honest truth, no matter
Mhm.
what. No matter if I can help them or not, I want to educate them. I want to be honest with them. And that goes a long way with building long term relationships.
It does. It does. That goes with the building of the trust. And
Yeah.
if you are avoiding having a hard conversation in order just to make this sale, that
Right.
is going to come back to bite you in the long run.
Yeah.
Because people, even when it's hard, people appreciate the truth more. They would rather have the
Mhm.
truth than find out later that it was dishonest.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And I'd rather be honest with a client and not have a surprise that I could have warned them about ahead of time or educated them on pop up in the long run,
Yeah.
and they get screwed. What do you see as the biggest leadership blind spots that hold teams back? I know
They
it's a good
think
question.
they're being nice when
Okay.
they're actually just being cowardice. And I know that that's a hard way to hear it. And so if we're saying 70% of hard conversations are avoided and don't happen, so then people are talking about people, not to people, and they're saying, well, I am trying to be nice. I don't want to look like I'm being mean. If I say that they
Mhm.
did X, Y, and Z project wrong, or they didn't meet this deadline, or how they responded in that meeting pissed me off and I want to know what's going on. It's
Yeah.
under the disguise of keeping the peace and being nice. But what you're doing is undermining and underpinning the relationship because you're like little droplets of cancer. You still have the story in your head that you're pissed off at that person because of the way they spoke to you in that meeting. And so then that deteriorates the relationship. It clouds your perspective of how you view all the interaction with them going forward, rather than having the courage to have the conversation and quote unquote be mean,
Mm.
of being like, hey, what was up? When I said this in the meeting, you kind of clapped back at me and barked back. And maybe the person's like, oh my God, I didn't even realize I did that. I just saw a text message and the text message really pissed me off. And then I got shot back into the meeting. It could be a million things. This just happened to me. So the Powerball, you know, how it was like over $1
Mhm.
billion.
Right.
And well, you can't complain if you never buy a damn ticket. You know what I mean? So I go in, literally, I'm sitting parked in my car. I get a ding on my phone. I get an email, and the email made me triggered absolute rage in me. But I have to go into this. I have my kids in the car, so I have to lock it all down. I
Right.
go into the store to get the lottery ticket, and the lady to do the lottery ticket, her back is turned and she's talking to the other employee. So I'm standing there waiting. And when your rage is going, that 1 second feels like 10 minutes, right? Of that lady
Right.
not. And I'm like, excuse me, excuse me. And she turns around and I can feel it palpitating off of me.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I was like, it's not you. I said, I just got a very upsetting email that I'm currently enraged about. It's not you. But if I wouldn't have said anything, that poor lady panicked, saw me, and was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Don't be mad at me. And I would have been projecting all of my rage on her, and she created this whole story. You know what I mean? And I'm just going to be honest and be like, it is not you. It is the email I just read. Here's my money.
Yeah.
Wish me luck and let me work my crap out.
Right. Right. Exactly. And if it's one thing I've definitely learned as I've gotten older through different experiences, people, unfortunately, some people love drama, and pe- a lot of people don't like confrontation. And if we all just treat each other like an adult and talk about things, don't let things build up and say what's on our mind, we can avoid so much conflict and
Yeah.
so much heartache and just holding grudges and everything like that.
And I think that's where the shift comes in, is there's two things happening there. One, it's the shift of the mindset of we are
Hmm.
trained in our American society to fall in line, don't speak up, sit there and be quiet, especially when there's hierarchies and things like that. So we have
Yeah.
to overcome this training, this embedded subconscious programming that says speaking up equals conflict. So
Hmm.
that's step one, because no, it's not conflict, it's clarification. It's
Yeah.
connection. Hey, can
Yeah.
I have a clarifying conversation with you? Hey, can I check in? Can I clarify? To me,
Right.
it's cleaning up the connection
Yeah.
rather than all the assumptions, the miscommunications, the lies our brains tell ourselves, all that mucking it up. So I don't
Yeah.
even view it as conflict. I view
Hmm.
it as clarification and connection. So that's the
Yeah.
first mindset shift. Then we are not taught how to have these conversations. So then people are trying to have them and they're coming in hot and they're messing them all up and are using you statements of like, you missed this deadline, you did that. And then the person's all defensive, and then it turns into conflict because we don't have the skills to communicate effectively.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, a lot of people only think about themselves and not how what you're saying is going to come across to the other person. So, a lot of things that I've learned in therapy is one, I've got to think about what is about to come out of my mouth. And also, how is this going to make that other person feel?
Correct. Oh my gosh, Josh, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is
Yeah.
intent versus impact. When people
Yeah.
are like, well, I didn't intend that. The person who has now been hurt, that does not help them.
No.
It's you saying, what is going to be my impact of saying it this way, my impact of doing this, my impact of this decision? How is that going to impact this person?
Yeah.
Is it important to know an intent? Yes. Does that weigh in there some? Yes, but not until after you acknowledge the impact you had on somebody.
Couldn't have said it any better.
Pet peeve is such a pet peeve.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. All right, Sarah. Many entrepreneurs start businesses to escape toxic environments, but unintentionally recreate them. What advice would you give leaders to avoid that trap?
So, and you touched on this, right? It's leaving the ego at the door,
Absolutely.
right? Because you can't build a business by yourself. You can't have a thriving business by yourself. In order to be successful, you have to have customers. So it's not an ego place. And what I've learned is to, instead of being like, oh, I'm going to create this business to meet my needs, this is a collaborative. And so when I'm in business, I started the business to meet not just a need for me, but a need for our community,
Yeah.
a need for other therapists, a need for the mental health community. And so what I am saying to all of my team members when I'm hiring, we are in this boat together. We are intrinsically connected, where the clients you see are impacting if I can provide for my family, just as the marketing, all the back end stuff that I do in order to get you clients is how you feed your family. If you're not seeing clients, I don't eat and you don't eat. If I'm not marketing, I don't eat and you don't eat. And so we are intrinsically connected, and it is a collaboration together. So I'll ask my team, what are my blind spots on this? Hey, we're about to, somebody so that we can offer medication management within our facility too. Blind spots that you can see, what needs are unmet of our community, things like that. If I am not looking to my team and I'm only ego-based of what do I want, I'm missing all this important information, and then I'm making mistakes. And then you create that toxic environment within your own team of command and control, hierarchy, fall in line, power over, versus we are in this together and this is a collaborative. I depend on you, you depend on me. We're going to rise higher faster if we're doing it together.
Love the way you put that. It's not just because you own the business or I sign your paychecks. It's no, if I fail, you fail. If you succeed, I succeed. It's a team effort. I know throughout different aspects of my career and military career, even if I'm in a leadership role, I always have room to grow. And I want you to call me out on my BS. I want you to call me out when I'm messed up. Okay, obviously I don't want to keep that pattern going.
Correct.
So check me.
Yes.
Like just like I'm going to check you. And that's how you grow, not only a person, but a leader and just individually.
Yes.
And set that example for your guys, but those guys can also set example for you.
Yes. Yep. 100%. Beautifully said.
I appreciate it. I try, man. All right, let's talk about some trust in relationships. You often say that therapy and coaching hinge on trust. What have you learned about building trust quickly with clients who may come in guarded?
Yeah. So in the private practice of therapy, that's huge, right? People are coming to you in their most vulnerable states where they are in suffering, and making that first phone call, that is sometimes takes people years. And so I think understanding the sacredness and the sanctity of that, of you are their safe space, you are their container, and they're coming to you in their most vulnerable moments and sharing their most vulnerable secrets, fears,
Yeah.
things that they don't want anybody else to know about and are asking you to help them through those moments. So understanding that and taking it seriously to me is the first way to build that trust. And then I teach my team, every one of my team members in onboarding, I teach them the braving model of trust. And it's the 7 actionable, herbable, and measurable components of trust. Because people believe they're trustworthy. In my workshops, I'll ask them, I start it and raise your hand if you think you're 80% trustworthy. Everybody has their hands up. And I'm
Of
like
course.
85, 90, 95. So people have their hands up. And I'm like 100%. And there's always at least 1 to 3 people in the room that say they're
Yeah.
100% trustworthy. And I call bullshit on that.
Yeah.
And it's because we think, oh, well, I don't lie, I don't cheat, and I don't steal. So they're like,
Yeah.
I am 100% trustworthy. That's not what trust is, right?
No.
And lying can be, I said I was going to meet you for lunch at 12, but I showed up at 12:30. That's not being trustworthy. But people only equate it in their brains to these big, huge, sweeping moments, whereas trust is actually a bunch of these little, small, itty bitty moments. So showing up on time, being fully present, being non-judgmental when you're having when they're sharing something vulnerable, showing empathy, being generous with your interpretation, your actions. You don't say one thing and do another. Your actions and your words align. All of that is how you build trust. But
Yeah.
people don't know what the behaviors are and that it's actually these little small moments. So they're breaking trust all over the daggone place and don't even realize.
Yeah. No, I used to be, I don't know. It's probably because I was younger and growing up and maturing. I used to be ashamed of the mistakes that I made in my life. And I always
Mhm.
looked back and was like, well, if I did this, what could have been this been? It's things like that. And I learned over time to embrace my mistakes and
Mhm.
learn because I learned from them, I grew from them, and it made me into the person that I am today. And
Mhm.
that's what a lot of people need to do.
Right.
There's no such thing as a perfect human being. That's
Mm-mm.
bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, that they lack self-awareness. If
Yeah,
they think that they're perfect, they're just lacking self-awareness. They're just in denial. You know what I mean? And I think
absolutely.
too, people believing you're trustworthy and people perceiving you as trustworthy are 2 very different things. And I would have my couples do the trust assessment and I would have them rate themselves and then do the same scale for their spouse. And it was always so fascinating because
Mhm.
you're like, I graded myself higher. And your spouse is like, this is actually how I perceive you. This is how, like, your score ain't as hot as you think it is, my friend.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I tell people, you just go on my website, you do your trust score, but then you need to have someone else take the quiz and then
Right.
take those 2 scores and reflect on it because not
Yeah.
just how you view yourself, but how others perceive you as trustworthy.
Completely agree with that. Has there been a moment where vulnerability, either yours or your clients, completely shifted the direction of the work?
Hmm. Yes. And honestly, I can't think of one specific moment because it happens so often because it isn't just what I do, this is who I am. And
Hmm.
so when you show up and you're vulnerable, it literally opens the gate and is an invitation and grants people permission for them to be vulnerable too. So I would say this will probably be the biggest one because I use it. I'm very transparent of things that have happened, but this is probably the biggest courageous hurdle for me was here I am, couples therapist, and then my own marriage is dysfunctional, toxic, and unhealthy. And I'm trying to save it because,
Right.
oh my God, if I, as a freaking couples therapist, cannot have a healthy relationship, then
Yeah.
everybody is going to look at me and be like, what is this chick going to be able to teach me? Or how is she going to save my marriage? She can't even save her own daggone marriage. And so there was so much shame around that. And when I started, leaving that marriage is the most courageous and proudest act of my entire life. And
Mhm.
so telling people and holding the mirror up for people of just because you have this title or just because people see you in a certain way does not mean that you have to continue to endure situations to maintain that title. Trust me, I've seen a lot of clients. I know what's going on behind the scenes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
they're the CEOs of the companies, and they're dealing with stuff. And
Right.
so to be able
Everybody
to
does.
say here's my vulnerability where I'm going through this divorce and I'm dealing with this. I had team members say to me, new team members, "Oh my God, thank you so much for sharing." Because I had to tell them, "Hey, this is what's happening. It might take me longer to respond to your emails because I'm currently in this season of my life." And a new hire was like, "Thank you so much for sharing that because here's what's going on in my life." He was dealing with medical problems. And he's like, "I thought I had to suffer in silence and not tell
Mm,
people at work in order to, because I was afraid then you would fire me or think less of me. And you gave me permission to tell you." And I was like, "Yes, that's what we do here. We support
right.
each other. We have compassion and grace and understanding. And if you are sick one day, now I know why you can't see clients that day is because you're in too much pain. Not
Yeah.
because you're lazy, but because you have a medical condition."
Right.
Yeah.
And it's all about the environment that you create too. Because a lot of businesses out there, people wouldn't even think twice about trying to say something in their personal life to coworkers that, unless they, you know, develop a close friendship and go
Mm-hmm.
outside of work or something. But you create that not only laid back and caring environment, but also a very safe space
Mm-hmm.
for not only your clients, but your employees as well. We do the same thing at Lifetime. We're a very smaller agency, but we are all a very close knit
Mm-hmm.
family. They're one of my core people that I talk to about personal things and everything
Yep.
like that. And
Yep.
they do that to me. That way we both know we have each other's backs, but you're
Yep.
not alone either.
Yep.
And you don't have to feel afraid to tell me what's going on in your life. Because not
Yep.
only will it give me a better understanding of what's going on, but I can help you as well, and vice
Correct.
versa.
Now imagine that for a second if you didn't have that. How would workplace be different for you? And how would your life be different for you if you did not have that?
Honestly, I would probably be lost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my world would be probably a shit show, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
mean,
how many people are out there in the world experiencing that right now where they have to hide their struggles or even their identity? I've done lots of work with law enforcement, and one of the officers was like, "This is the
mm,
first place that I've worked at where I've been able to bring my partner to the Christmas party." Where
that's
you
ins
Right? But what we create and what we're experiencing and what you're living in right now is actually the minority. How heartbreaking is that?
yeah, that's
And honestly, it's what makes me so passionate because you know
yeah,
the difference and you're like, "Everybody come over here. It's so much better over here." And you want it
right.
for everybody. You want them to experience what you're experiencing because you know the difference.
Yeah,
Same thing. I'm like, "Oh my God, I want to train every freaking leadership team and organization in the world so that every employee can experience what you're talking about." Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with you. You've called yourself a master secret keeper, kind of like we were talking about before. How has holding so many people's truths shaped the way you lead and coach?
So it's given me such a bigger lens to view the world through. So I can be sitting at a stoplight and look over and realize there's a person in that car, and who knows what it is that's going on in their life. Who knows what it is that they are juggling, battling, all the weight that they feel. And
Yeah,
so that nothing is just as it seems on the surface. So to really understand people and have compassion for people, that's what I think it is. You're working with somebody who on the outside looks like they have it all together, but they are human and ooey gooey inside too, and they are
yeah,
experiencing the same things. So honestly, I think it's the keeper of all the secrets is realizing we're more alike than we're not alike. We have universal desire for connection and belonging, to feel deeply understood, seen, valued, and loved. And so if we're out there thinking we're unlovable, or if we're out there feeling like we're not supported and we're taken advantage of, if we're out there in toxic environments where we don't feel seen, heard, loved, or that we belong, we're all
mhm,
experiencing these same things just in different shades or shapes. Yeah.
And kind of, you brought up the whole person being in a car next to you. I myself, and I'm sure I know a lot of people have road rage. And, I've been working on it and everything, but you never stop to think, instead of that person's being an asshole or something or cut you off, you never think about the fact that what's causing them to do that. That person is probably going through something right now, and
Yep.
you never think about it.
Yep. Exactly. They didn't even see that your car was there because their mind is trying to manage 50 tabs in their brain are open right now. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your podcast a little bit. So you co-host the Girls Who Do Stuff podcast. How has podcasting shaped the way you connect with your audience and your clients?
So I think one, it really fed my core value of connection. And I have learned so much from the guest on the podcast, different ways to view the world, blind spots of my own. I never thought of it that way. I never knew that. So it has just opened up my mind so much. It's opened up my mind, but it opened up my heart so much of the resiliency of the human spirit, of what people go through and how resilient they are. And that at the end of the day, we can get through anything when we have community. So I feel like
Mm.
that's been my biggest takeaway from the experience of the podcast is it creates community, and we are starved for real genuine connection and what I
Yeah,
call soul sync moments of when
right.
you're reading a book or you're listening to an audio or listening to a podcast and somebody said something and it's like, oh my God, that has been locked in my soul and they found the words for it and brought it out of my body and into the world.
Yeah.
And so having those moments with the guest of, oh my God, that's been locked in my soul and you just said it. Yes, that's a beautiful way to say that. Yes, I agree with that. Or, oh my gosh, I don't agree. There was one guest where I was triggered to all get out because the stuff she was saying, I do not believe in. And I was like, stop saying these things because it felt toxic to me, the things that she was saying. And I had to push through and get real curious. Help me understand. She was another therapist. She just had a
Yeah.
very different style and perspective. And I was like, help me understand your style and perspective. Help me understand how that technique. And I was challenging her because she was challenging me. And that is the only way that we were going to be able to understand. And so even though I didn't agree, I was able to walk away and I can understand her, which
Mhm.
means then I can have compassion for her versus if I didn't understand, I'd have been like, that chick is a horrible ass therapist and nobody needs to go to her. I'd have been judging her.
And that's one thing that people fail to do or don't think about doing. Let's say they have beef with somebody or they're butting heads or whatever the case may be. They never stop and take a moment and think or ask, well, how can I understand where this person's coming from? Help me understand. And that would alleviate so many negative things.
Yep. What I've learned too, this is a little leadership tip, is my
We love tips.
curiosity actually used to get me into trouble because I would be like, why? Because I was
Right.
trying to understand, but people viewed it as me challenging them and they would get defensive. And so then it would be this push. And I wasn't challenging them or saying they were wrong or questioning their integrity. I was actually curious and was trying to understand them. I wanted to
Yeah.
connect the dots. I was having an issue understanding. And so I was needing more data in order to fill in the picture, right? I didn't have enough dots to see the picture.
Yeah.
But with me going, well, why? Why did you do that? So I had to shift it and be like, hey, my intention is I'm having a hard time understanding right now. Can you please help me with this? Because at the end of the day, it is my problem. They feel like I spoke freaking clearly. Why are you coming at me asking me for why or more, or you want more, or you need me to justify, defend, or prove myself? And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not asking you to justify, defend, or prove yourself. I am having trouble understanding this, how this got to here. I am missing the points in between, the connective tissue in between. Can you please help me? And then a
Yeah.
person is more open. People want to help other people. And
Right.
so, yes, I do want to help you understand this. So just that, hey, I genuinely want to understand and I am struggling. Can you please help me?
It's kind of like the help me help you, help me understand so I can help you. Not
Yep,
only understand, but help you in general.
correct. Whatever what the goal is that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about outside the office a little bit. What do you do to compartmentalize, recharge, and keep yourself refreshed?
I live and breathe and die by my calendar. So that's the first thing. I have blocks on my calendar that literally says boundaries to where I don't schedule appointments before a certain point and don't schedule them after a certain point.
Kind of like,
So I have those blocks in my calendar, and it's the block is named boundary for a reason.
yeah.
This is serious. Honor your boundaries. Community. I have the greatest set of close-knit friends, and whether that's doing Voxer audios or Marco Polos where we stay connected with each other,
Mhm.
and self-awareness of what capacity am I at now to know what can I manage and what can I say yes to. And then this is the one that I'm learning now, which is a game changer. So if anybody listening is a type A, high achiever, high functioning, where people have told me for many years, you are an overfunctioner, Sarah. You don't just like high function, you overfunction. Well, overfunctioning is like working an engine on overdrive. That's not sustainable. The engine's going to blow up, right?
Right.
So I was like, well, shoot, I better freaking start solving this mess now. I don't want to blow up. I have 2 kids that are counting on me. So and I learned it from one of my therapists on the team, actually. It's really doing a self-assessment of what is mine to carry. Instead of us feeling like we need to rescue people, take on their stuff as our own, solve problems instead of letting people solve problems for themselves. So, and as
Yeah.
leaders, that's so easy for us to do, is take
Mhm.
on and grab other people and step up to rescue instead of
Yeah.
being like, that is not mine to own.
Right. Sometimes people got to own their own thing, and you could be a resource, but you're not going to hold their hand in fixing the problem. I'm going to be a resource for you and give you motivational support you need. But at the end of the day, you got to do the work if you ever want to change.
And once there's the 3 steps to change, and the level 1 is awareness, right? And level 2 is then to catch it when it happens. Level 3 is you alter the behavior and repeat the new pattern. And so, but it is deep in me, Josh. I have been this way since I was born. And so I
Straight
caught
out the
myself.
womb.
Yes, I caught myself. My son was trying to open something and he was struggling to open it. And I'm standing there and I knew I could have opened that damn thing in 2 seconds because
Right.
just faster, quicker. And I was like, do not rescue him. He is capable of opening it. Just stand here. Don't do it. Don't
Let 'em
step in.
learn.
Yeah, but I had to talk. I had to do internal talk instead of just here, hand it to me, open it, and move on with life.
No, it's great, that mindset, though, because he's never going to learn, even if it's something as stupid as learning how to open up a package or something big. It's kind of like if you bend the rules for something, you bend the rules for all the things. They're not going to learn. Your child will appreciate that in the
Yeah.
long run. You know, you're not just coddling him and doing everything for him and not teaching him how to be essentially a man and how
Yep.
to do
How often as
simple
leaders,
things.
though, or especially business owners, are we like, it's just faster if I do it myself? And we're wanting to do it
Oh,
fast.
absolutely.
I've got a million things. It's just faster if I do it like, and it might be faster momentarily, but it is not
Right.
effective long term.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I'm sure my boss, Aubrey, owned our agency for the last 10 years. She would definitely agree with that. And all the business owner that she talks to on the agency's podcast. If you could go back and give 2005, Sarah, one piece of advice before starting your business, what would it be?
Okay. So this one might sound like a joke, but I am so serious. And I wish to God I would have had this advice back then. Prenup, prenup, prenup. Every business owner needs a prenup.
Yeah.
Every person needs a prenup, especially business owners. And no one told me. And back when it started, it was just a little itty bitty. I started it before I even met who I then, my then husband.
Right.
But no one said anything. And so you never know. Just like freaking the service you provide, you never know what's going to happen, but
Yeah.
you need to protect yourself from the worst.
Absolutely.
And so you never know what is going to happen in a marriage, in a business, in any partnership, whether that's a business partnership. Same
Right.
thing. Like, protect yourself, get a freaking prenup, ironclad. And if you're in a partnership with somebody else, make sure your contracts are ironclad. If you are in business and you're hiring people, make sure your contracts are ironclad
Yeah.
to protect your legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. I, just one quick example, home buyers are a great client for me because I always ask them, congratulations on your new home. By the way, what's your plan if something were to happen to you and you had to pay the mortgage off? I don't know.
Yep.
Let me talk to you about different options, aka life insurance.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
for
The thing.
example,
Yep, but it's so true. But no one ever thinks of it, especially when you're in the high of those milestone moments, right? Marriage, home buying, birth of a child. These are high milestone moments where we're in this state of bliss and hope,
Mhm.
and all those warm and juicy chemicals in our brain are dumping and telling us that we are invincible. So we never think, okay, well, now how do I protect this?
Yeah, absolutely. What's been the most rewarding moment for you, either with a client breakthrough or in your own journey?
I would say the most rewarding, because to me, the journey of entrepreneurship is one, it's personal development on steroids because your
Yeah.
personal problems will show
Or
up in
on
your
crack.
business. Yes, yes, it is. So if you're a business owner, you're getting personal development. You have to. So I view it as the constant growth of self, constant growth of business, constant growth of team. So it's the journey.
Yeah.
I would say I've known since I was a little girl that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and my biggest goal was to be an amazing mom and be at home with my kids. So the business allowed me to be at home with my kids.
Yeah.
Because I had a team, I would see clients for 2 hours at night. And because I had a team, I was able to stay home. I would do billing and insurance and all the paperwork, wearing the baby on my chest or during nap times, right? And so, but without my team, I wouldn't be able to do that. So the ability to be at home with my boys during those times. And a few years ago, my dad was diagnosed with dementia and he had always wanted to go to Italy. So when we knew that the diagnosis was increasing and he was moving on in his stages, I said, I want to take him to Italy to do a family history trip.
Mhm.
And my dad and I spent 3 weeks in Italy, going from where his mom was born to where his dad was born, and just doing a family heritage tour. It
Wow.
was hands down the most moving experience of my life. I could not have done that if it was not for my team, for this business, for the culture that I've created of knowing that I can be away and fully focused on him, and he had a wheelchair. Like, it's a thing. I had to
Yeah.
be fully present and know that my team and my business, that they were going to be okay. So that's been the most fulfilling. And he passed like a year and a half afterwards, and he got really sick after the trip that next year.
Mhm.
There's no way that I would ever have been able to do that and have that experience with him if it wasn't for the team. And I don't take it for granted. I think that's the thing. I don't take them for granted. I don't take the journey for granted. My heart could explode with gratitude.
First off, hands down, I'm so jealous of your Italy trip. I'm Italian and have been waiting to go, and it's going to happen one day. But man, just 3 weeks of doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
that was incredible that not only your team was selfless and had your back,
Mm-hmm.
but you also got the opportunity to give your dad what he always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he is always forever grateful for
Mm-hmm.
that. You're forever grateful for that.
Yep.
Just like your team is always forever grateful for what you do for them.
Yes, it is definitely a beautiful symbiotic where they're like,
Yeah.
thank God I don't work in a toxic environment.
Man, I'm sure they say that every day that ends in Y. And going back to having a team that has your back and vice versa, just like you, I, lo- I lost my dad a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a paralegal at the time. I was in a whole different career field. I was working for this one law firm, and when he passed away, they were so supportive. I mean, I hadn't even been working there a year, and this is just the type of environment that they provide, and also the relationship that we had. But they gave me as much time off as I needed. They gave me all the legal resources that I needed because I
Yep.
was dealing with probate because my dad didn't have a will, aka be prepared.
Yes.
It was just incredible and selfless what they did for me in such a vulnerable time in my
Yes.
life, probably the most vulnerable time in my entire life. It's the same for what your team does for you and what you do for your team.
Yes. So you totally get it. Yes. I'm like, you get it. I don't even need to
Yeah.
explain it anymore. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Man. All right. Well, this has been incredible. Where can listeners find you, your coaching work, and your podcast if they want to connect further?
So our current goal is to create more partnerships with organizations who want to have this culture. We do long-term relationships. So for example, one of our partners, we've been with them, and within the first 2 years of working with us, their turnover rate decreased by 50%. And
Wow.
so, yeah, we're in a place where we are seeking those new partnerships to work with teams and things like that. So if you are somebody who's wanting that and wants that type of culture in your organization, then just sarahmadras.com. So it's Madras. And I'm a Sarah with an H. Also on my website is the free trust quiz where you can find out just how trustworthy are you for real. You can send it to a friend and be like, take this and tell me how trustworthy you think I am. I also have a masterclass on there that goes into all the components of trust. So if you're wanting to know, well, what is this trust model about? They can get it on my website as well. And then the Girls Who Do Stuff podcast is all over the daggone place. So whether it's Spotify or iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there.
And just for our listeners, can you give a quick meat and potatoes about what the podcast is about?
So the podcast is basically just raw, real, vulnerable conversations. And because of my obsession with reality TV, we may have reached out to some reality TV people.
What?
Yep. We also had one of the ones where I was saying it just opened my mind to so much of people's resiliency. One of the episodes is where Doctors Without Borders was taken hostage, and he was held hostage for 3 years, and talks about his journey. We talk
Wow.
about men's mental health. The episode Gaggle of Guys talks about how men's mental health and ways for men to create a community to have the support and have those vulnerable conversations. So it really is just raw, real conversations. And people would say, my God, it's like I was a fly on the wall where you guys were having drinks and lunch and stuff. And so that's
Right.
what it's, yep.
That's awesome.
And there is cursing, so beware.
Man, well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me on White Coat Conversations. I had a lot of freaking fun and loved hearing about your journey from therapist to leadership coach and how you're helping business leaders create courageous cultures that people never want to leave.
See, because you don't want to leave right now, do you, Josh?
I really don't. I mean, I could be on this podcast all day. For our listeners, make sure to please check out Sarah Madras Coaching and the Girls Who Do Stuff podcast, which, by the way, I'm definitely got to check that out. That sounds awesome. To continue learning from her work. But thanks for listening to White Coat Conversations, part of the Real Business Lifetime Lessons podcast, hosted by Lifetime Insurance Agency. Please be sure to subscribe so you'll catch more inspiring stories from healthcare and wellness leaders across the Carolinas. And if you're a Carolina resident or who needs assistance with health, life, or Medicare insurance, please reach out. Our team would love to support you. Have a great week.